it's Lisa. I got a full tank and the Queen's in the back, so hop on in and let's hit the road.
A roadside attraction is a feature along the side of the road meant to attract tourists. In general, these are places one might stop on the way to somewhere rather than actually being a destination. They are frequently advertised with billboards. The modern tourist-oriented highway attraction originated as the U.S. phenomena in the 1940s to 60s. When long-distance road travel became practical and popular in the 1920s, entrepreneurs began building restaurants, motels, coffee shops, cafes, and more unusual businesses to attract travelers. Many of the buildings were attractions in themselves in the form of novelty architecture depicting common objects of enormous size, typically relating to the items sold there. Some other types of roadside attractions include monuments and fictionalized paranormal illusionary amusements. With the construction of the interstate highway system in the 1950s, many roadside attractions were bypassed and quickly went out of business. Some remained attractive enough to divert travelers from the interstate for a brief respite and thus remain in business. These attractions have always fascinated me, so I always look for them whenever I travel. Why don't we start close to home? There are plenty around the Akron, Ohio area. The Doodlebug Monument. Let's start with a really ugly mass transit disaster, remembered at the spot where it happened. The address is Front Street, Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, on the corner of Front and Bailey. Many years ago, the Doodlebug, a gasoline-powered rail car, ran from Akron north to Cuyahoga Lake Park and hauled travelers to other destinations. On July 31, 1940, the train crashed into a 73-car freight train at Front Street and Hudson Drive, and nearly all, 43 of 44 passengers, were killed. Recently, some students from Sill Middle School took up a collection and did some research on the accident, and they had a plaque made for the commemoration of the accident. The plaque is in the park. Across the street from the Doodlebug is one of the most famous sculptures of Chief Netawatwees, a Delaware Indian. He stands where Front Street and 2nd Street split at Route 8. Chief Netawatwees stands watch over the city of Cuyahoga Falls in the form of a 26-foot-tall carving on an island of land across from Riverfront Park. The carving is the handiwork of local resident Joe Fernopfel and was dedicated on July 5, 2004. This commemorates the local tribe of Delaware that lived in the area and traveled the Cuyahoga River. In downtown Akron at 135 South Broadway is the original Quaker Oats factory. The complex consists of the former mill, factory, and silos. The buildings were bought in the 1970s by developers who sought to create a unique, useful home for shops and restaurants called Quaker Square. It was a shopping and dining complex located in downtown Akron. In the 1970s through the early 2000s, it was a place to shop and to take out-of-town guests to shop and see the unique shopping mall and hotel with its round rooms. The buildings were bought by the University of Akron in 2007. The hotel has been converted to a residence hall. Quaker Square was open to the public until September 18, 2015. The hotel no longer accepts reservations as the former hotel rooms and the entire complex is operated exclusively for student and university use. However, ballrooms are still available for catered events and conferences. The Quaker Oats Company was formed by the merger of several businesses. One was the Akron-based German Mills American Oatmeal Company, founded by Ferdinand Schumacher. Schumacher's facility, first built in 1872, was destroyed by fire in 1886, then was rebuilt at the same location. Those buildings formed the basis of the Quaker Oats cereal factory. The complex consisted of cereal production facilities, warehouses, and rail siding sheds. Quaker Oats built 36 grain silos on the site in 1932. Each silo was 120 feet tall and 24 feet in diameter, and together they housed 1.5 million bushels of grain. The complex is now the only remaining visual reminder of what was once Akron's largest single employer. Quaker Oats terminated production in Akron in 1970. The entire complex was listed in the National Register of Historic Places in 1972. The facility was repurposed in March 1973 and reopened April 1975 with 4 shops and an ice cream parlor. The silos were converted into a Hilton Hotel, which opened in 1980. Later it became a Crown Plaza Hotel. The hotel was built into a suite of silos and was famed for its 196 completely round rooms. Portage Path. A different kind of monument was completed in 2003, a commemoration of the original people who lived in the Akron area. The Old Portage is an 8-mile portage path and is one of the oldest trails in the North American landscape. It is an overland connection between the Cuyahoga and Tuscarawas rivers. It was the longer of two portages used by prehistoric people and early settlers. This was just one link in the water route between Lake Erie and the Ohio River. The prehistoric people, Native Americans, traveled seasonally. Using canoes and small dugout boats, they navigated rivers and wetlands of this region to harvest food and hunt. The water route was also important for trade, especially for the high-quality flint found at Flint Ridge near Newark in southern Ohio. Most arrowheads found locally are made from such flint. The $500,000 project allows anyone to pinpoint the exact path of the trail through Akron by following 50 broad blade arrowhead markers from Merriman Valley to Young's Restaurant in Kenmore. As early European explorers and settlers began to move into this area, they traveled the Old Portage. With the signing of the Treaty of Fort McIntosh in 1785, the Portage Path became a boundary between Indian lands and to the west and those available for white settlers to the east. Indian with a canoe. This larger-than-life Native American statue, portaging a canoe, has been erected in Cuyahoga Valley. The bronze statue gives Akron something that few cities enjoy, an Indian image created by a Native American artist. The statue was sculpted by Peter Jones, an Onondaga Seneca sculptor living in the Cattaraugus Reservation near Buffalo, New York. Local history guru and former deputy mayor of Akron, David Lieberth, said that the trail was first created by elk, bison, and deer that inhabited the forests. The native people who occupied this region improved the forest route to create the portage as long as 8,000 years ago. While there were no permanent villages of any tribal group, the portage path was used by the Shawnee of western Ohio and the Delaware from the area of Shinbrun. Iroquoian people who left the Five Nations of New York migrated to the Ohio country and were referred to as Mingo Indians. Additionally, Wyandot, Huron, Ottawa, and Miami Indians may have also used the trail. According to Lieberth, a surveyor named Moses Warren traveled up the Cuyahoga River from Cleveland in July 1797 to survey the exact location of the Indian Trail, which had been designated as the western boundary of the Western Reserve. He saw an Indian village called Old Cuyahoga Town near the Cuyahoga terminus occupied by Delaware Indians or Lenni Lenape. As stated in the 1785 Treaty of Fort McIntosh, the Portage Path was the boundary line between land that was legally open to European settlement and that which was belonging to the native people. Indian territory was to be west of the line extending from the mouth of the Cuyahoga River along the 8-mile Portage Path to the Tuscarawas River to present-day Bolivar. Beyond this boundary, no European settlement was to take place after 1785. The marking of the Portage Path had been the passion of former Akron resident William Yeck. In 1990, Yeck proposed that Summit Metro Parks, along with the Summit Historical Society and the city of Akron, work together to mark the trail of the Portage Path. Although he did not live to see the final result, the Yeck Family Foundation has made contributions of over $500,000 to see the project to completion. Sculptor Peter Jones was commissioned to design the American Indian. He did extensive research into the people who lived here at the time of European settlement to guide his representation of the portaging man. Jones's sculpture portrays the woodland Indian known for traveling light. The bronze man wears a breechcloth and headpiece reminiscent of the style of historic tribes. Portage Trail Indian. This Native American statue sits at the corner of West Market Street and North Portage Path. Gus Cash donated the statue to the city in 1905 to memorialize the Native Americans who once carried canoes along the 8-mile Portage Path, which connected the Cuyahoga River and the Tuscarawas River to the Great Lakes and the Ohio River. The statue is sometimes referred to as the Portage Trail Indian, but was given the nickname Unk by Akron Beacon Journal reporter Ken Nichols after the character Uncas from Last of the Mohicans. The statue was produced by J.L. Mott Ironworks of Bronx, New York. After vandalism, theft, and accidents, the statue has undergone restoration, sometimes with the figure holding tools that weren't on the original statue. An identical statue exists in Barberton and pays tribute to Chief Hopakun of the Delaware Indians. The airdock. The Goodyear Airdock at 1210 Maslin Road is a construction and storage airship hangar in Akron. At its completion in 1929, it was the largest building in the world without interior supports. The building has a unique shape. It's been described as half a silkworm cocoon, cut in half the long way. It is 1,175 feet long, 325 feet wide, and 211 feet high, supported by 13 steel arches. There is 364,000 square feet of unobstructed floor space, or an area larger than 8 football fields side by side. A control tower and a radio aerial sit at its northeast end. At each end of the building are 2 huge semi-spherical doors, each weighing 600 tons. The doors roll on 40 wheels along specially designed curved railroad tracks, each powered by an individual power plant that can open the door in about 5 minutes. The air dock is so large that temperature changes within the structure can be very different from that on the outside of the structure. To accommodate these fluctuations, which could cause structural damage, a row of 12 windows 100 feet off the ground were installed. Furthermore, the entire structure is mounted on rollers to compensate for expansion or contraction resulting from the temperature changes. When the humidity is high in the air dock, a sudden change of temperature causes condensation. This condensation falls in the mist, creating the illusion of rain. In 1929, Goodyear Zeppelin Corporation, later Goodyear Aerospace, sought a structure in which lighter-than airships could be constructed. The company commissioned Carl Arnstein of Akron, whose design was inspired by the blueprints of the first aerodynamic-shaped airship hangar, built in 1913 in Dresden, Germany. Construction took place from April to November 1929 and cost $2.2 million, equivalent to $26.21 million in 2019. The first 2 ships to be launched were the USS Akron and the USS Macon. When World War II broke out, enclosed production areas were desperately needed, and the air dock was used for building airships. The building later housed the photographic division of the Goodyear Aerospace Corporation. In 1980, the Goodyear Air Dock was designated an historic civil engineering landmark by the American Society of Civil Engineers. The air dock has more recently served as the site for the 1986 kickoff rally of the United Way of Summit County, where 200,000 members of the public visited. Bill Clinton spoke there during his 1992 election campaign, bringing some 30,000 visitors to the site. In 1987, the Loral Corporation purchased Goodyear Aerospace and the Goodyear Air Dock as a result of James Goldsmith's green mailing of Goodyear. The Loral Corporation and its holdings, including the Goodyear Air Dock, was purchased by Lockheed Martin in 1996. As of 2021, California company LTA Research and Exploration, together with the University of Akron, plans to use the air dock to develop electric-powered airships. The air dock is not open to the public, but can be seen by those traveling on U.S. Route 224 east of downtown Akron. Another benefit of living in Akron is that sometimes you can see as many as 4 blimps floating over the city. Top that, Cleveland. Brimfield. In a small park in Brimfield stands a small sculpture of a man with one hand missing at the wrist. The statue was unveiled in 1916 during the Brimfield Centennial celebration. The original statue possessed a right hand which was holding an axe handle. After the statue lost its hand, possibly due to a fireworks accident, an effort was made to refurbish the monument, but to no avail. It stands in Portage County on Route 43, and the inscription reads, "In honor of the Brimfield pioneers, settlers of 1816. Following are the names of the first settlers to arrive in the area." Cuyahoga Falls Tower. In Cuyahoga Falls stands another attraction that has made many a driver wonder what the heck was that. Standing at about 500 feet, a tall structure looms over the surrounding area of Cuyahoga Falls. What was originally intended to be a 750-foot tower was never completed and had sat unfinished since construction was halted in 1971, only 22 days after the project started. The tower was construction by Reverend Rex Humbard, who lived in Cuyahoga Falls and was a well-known televangelist at the time. Even Elvis was a fan. His following grew and he built the Cathedral of Tomorrow where the show was filmed. These days it has been purchased by Ernest Angley Ministries and today is still an operating televangelist church. The structure officially stands 494 feet tall and was last purchased for $30,000 to be used as a cell tower. Over the years it has gained many names from locals, with two of the most notably used being Humbard's Folly and of course Rex's Erection. Well, that's the first installment. As we travel around, we'll keep looking for new and exciting roadside attractions. This is Lisa and the Queen. Hope to see you again as I hit the road with Lisa. Please like and share and hit the bell to be notified when I post the next adventure.